So the first thing we did was just setting up cooking, which was very important because there are lots of things you can cook here, and so far uh, we're only going to do simple meal because simple meal is easy to make, requires very few resources, and while it won't provide us with any bonuses, it will suffice. For now. The next thing that we prepared was the butcher's table and the research table. These are quite crucial because the butcher's table, well, as the name suggests, allows us to butcher creatures that we hunt down or somehow kill, and the research table essentially allows us to perform researches, as you can see over here. Now there's tons of researches from just occultism, magic, planting stuff, etc. And we were also prompted to name our colony at this time, so I have named it Doodled Scribbles and went for a very simple DS as the abbreviation for the colony. And we were properly setting up. Now, research at first would be very simple. It would just be new crops, basics of everything. But later on, we could really advance to even living in space on a massive space station and not being bothered by, well, anything planetary, really. But that would be a very long way to go. After we've had the butcher's table set up, I decided to test Lunaria's ability. I sent them to kill a rabbit with one of those spells and they just obliterated it. And then I sent them to butcher it, and oh my god. Despite being an eldritch creature and someone very powerful at magic, they cannot do absolutely anything whatsoever. But yeah, we've now had a murdered rabbit and a bit of food, so butchering works. Once the necessities were taken care of, the next step was ensuring my colonists, or we, the four of us, would have some luxuries to enjoy. So I set up some extra space for planting tea and coffee. Now these would be not that important, but of course they make the survivors happier. So of course their existence is a huge benefit. So the next step naturally was electricity. Now electricity is a little bit difficult, especially from the very beginning, because you see, we don't really have any reliable generators. We have wind turbines, but we don't even have batteries to store the power with. So while I've essentially set up wind turbines to be built, first of all, there is no one skilled enough to actually build them, and second of all, we wouldn't have where to store the charge. However, I still set them up and let my colonists or the survivors or four of us, whatever you want to call us, set up this little area where they could just collect wind, or so to speak, and essentially turn it eventually into electricity once enough research has been done. Now eventually a visitor stopped by, so I prepared everyone to greet him, but then I found this. I have never seen this before. It was a very strange, eldritch, mysterious tree. And, well, in honesty, I couldn't even find the visitor, so what I did was send Lunaria immediately after the tree to just study it and, well, get some information out of it. Oh boy, and they did. It didn't take long for Lunaria to study the tree, but then things started happening. They were scribbling down ancient symbols. They were muttering about things no one could understand, and overall, mysteries were surrounding this, well, already quite a mysterious being. They were writing something, and that something was a grimoire. A grimoire we would need in order to research more occult stuff. Quite something, although it did nearly drive them mad, despite being an eldritch being. So, it is perhaps a little bit dangerous. Still, I can't imagine a more perfect person out of the four of us to study the dark. Now, all it took afterwards was just to create a specific research table for researching dark and occult magic, and voila! a cult was born. I named it after Umbra, a creation of Lunaria, the actual Lunaria, not this Eldritch one. And, well, all we really needed to do was to build this special table and we could start delving into the dark secrets of this powerful ancient magic. But it would still take quite a while. I mean, the research is not quick. Not at all. Now, it was the right call to put Lunaria on the job because they were in fact so effective at studying the grimoire. I don't know what they did, but they attracted the first follower of the cult of Umbra, which theoretically was cult of Lunaria because Lunaria is an eldritch creature. But all of a sudden there's Ava, a very obese naked lady who I have no idea where she came from, but she is now here and she's a cultist and one that is devoted to follow Lunaria as the cult leader. So that's reinforcement super quick. And so, because we're gathering followers, I've decided we can't just perform dark arts in some small little shack. No, what we need is a proper church. So I've started basically excavating this large place in the mountain, and I've been researching a proper altar so that Lunaria, as the leader of the cult of Umbra, can actually go and perform various sermons and perform various sittings with the members of the cult. So far only one member, but who knows, maybe it will grow. And, get them to, I don't know, actually learn some dark magic? Hopefully. It didn't take long and our first victim arrived. Somebody heard of our cult and they were not so nice, so I set up a defensive perimeter and, well, the first step was taking Typo and letting them set up their magical turret. Now, I didn't know how effective the turret would be, but oh boy, just watch. So the turret has in range, the villain or the attacker gets into that range and bam, so many shots fired. Granted, they were not supremely effective, but they still wounded them. And, well, turrets are really hard to create normally, but then I've just let Lunaria finish it with their magic. The guy briefly fell unconscious and, in great agony, passed away. And that, my friends, was absolutely brilliant. Because the next thing Lunaria could do is turn this dead man into an undead servant. So now, we've actually had the 6th member of our group. Now, the undead person cannot really get any stronger, so we just get what we get, but this guy was not a bad deal. An attacker came and tried to hurt us, so we hurt him back, and now he will be our immortal slave. Well, nigh immortal. Just like Lunaria, this guy does not need anything, he does not need sleep, but he also does not need recreation because his mind is no longer his. He's no longer bothered by menial things, he doesn't even have a brain anymore, it's been blasted out of his head by Lunaria's magic and Typo's turret. But the great thing about having an undead servant is that they are perfect for fighting and defense. Because normally, living creatures suffer injuries, get their limbs torn off, they feel pain and bleed. But the undead don't need this. The only way to bring down an undead was to physically destroy their body so much that they just cannot be undead anymore. And that was absolutely perfect. We could send this guy to battle for us, and at least in the very beginning, he could just kill things. And even better, this was permanent. Lunaria's capacity for necromancy was vast, and I mean really vast. I'm not sure it was because they were a lich, or they are a lich, or because they are an eldritch being, I don't really know. But one thing was for certain, they could just keep this up forever, and the undead servant would never expire. Furthermore, they could do that with 2 servants. So the answer was simple. Kill another invader eventually and have even more undead people serving us. All day, all night. Perfect. Now, you wouldn't guess just how much Lunaria saved all of us with this particular undead servant, because you see, they still keep all the skills they had in life, even though they can't really learn anything new. And this guy was a pretty good constructor. So I've just sent him to build those wind turbines, and guess what? We have them. We don't have anything to connect them to, but we have them. And that's great. That is first step towards electricity, and that means not living in a building with a torch and a massive fire hazard. Now, there are some things I just can't control, because I can surely give these survivors some orders, but they will still do things on their own. And by the look of it, my avatar, Vinny, he picked up interest in Lunaria's dark and occult magic and actually started researching at the occult research table. Now, it didn't really do anything to him, he just heard some voices and, there's like a 15% chance he develops schizophrenia, but he is still alive and with mind mostly intact, so I see no harm done. He just essentially helped Lunaria go with the flow and just complete their church a bit sooner. And guess what? Do you remember how I told you that it's gonna be pretty funny to see an eldritch creature throwing horseshoes with like their 16 appendages? Well, Lunaria was doing that for recreation, and they liked it. It worked, and they were entertained. So it's official. Eldritch creatures love throwing horseshoes at a pin. That is a confirmed fact. Now, since everyone is just growing stronger passively, that also means it was time to level up certain survivors. Noira specifically learned the heal spell, which was quite essential because, let's be honest, I am the only doctor of these survivors. I'm not counting the zombie because nobody would ever want to be treated by a zombie. Maybe Lunaria, but if they were unconscious, then the zombie would disappear anyway. Now, I might be the doctor of this group, but my skills are absolutely shite. So if anyone gets wounded, the chances are it will get infected, and we will not have enough medicine, and then people will die. So it is absolutely essential for Noira to learn that heal spell, and then we just pray that she'll be able to use it to, well, heal anyone who gets wounded. Otherwise, it's goodbye, colony. Now, the Church of Lunaria was coming along relatively nicely. The zombie was slaving away in the mine, excavating the entire room, but that was just step 1. Step 2 would be to actually smooth out the surfaces, because here's the thing, if you just dig out a massive cave and put an altar in it, it might be effective and economically cheap, but nobody's gonna like it there. They'll be like, I understand we're worshipping gods of the darkest pits of the universe, but why the hell do we have to do this in this filthy place? And so, smoothing out essentially turns the cave into, well, a relatively pretty dungeon. So, that was necessary, but that would take time, so... God, it's really not easy to build churches. I think I finally understand the clergy. Now, my curious eye could not help me, and I took a peek at what things we'd be able to do later on as we would research more stuff, and we could even do blood sacrifices. Those who would attack us would suffer immensely. We wouldn't even need a prison, because normally you could take prisoners and convert them to your side, or release them, or even execute them. But no, we would have a fate much worse than that prepared for them. Actually, my plan was that the only ones worth recruiting would be mages and skilled supernatural fighters, eldritch beings, vampires, basically anyone like that. Everyone else to be sacrificed. And that was practically it for this video. I hope you liked it. I sure did. If you did as well, leave a comment, maybe subscribe for more. And I'll see you some next time. I really suck at these outros, so just whatever. Bye.